Consider for a moment the possibility that the life and teachings of Jesus contain hidden dimensions, profound fragments of his cosmic mission that were not recorded by popular tradition but were preserved in a mysterious text called the Urantia Book. Imagine that behind the historical Jesus we all know, there exists a vaster, more luminous Jesus, a circle of purpose that transcended time, space, and the boundaries of human understanding. Today, we begin a journey into the secrets of this book. Singular claims to reveal secrets that connect the divine with the universal and the human, with the eternal, and the last of these revelations, the most powerful of all, is the one that could forever transform your vision of your own life's purpose. This message is directed to those who feel that reality does not end in the visible, to those who are drawn to the wisdom passed down from generation to generation, to the enigmas of the spirit, to the esoteric currents that have accompanied seekers throughout the centuries, and to the doctrines that illuminate the hidden paths of the soul. If you've ever felt there's more to discover, more to remember, more to awaken to, then this journey is for you. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your insights in the comments. Share this video with those who also seek to understand the profound mysteries of existence and the cosmos. Today you will hear revelations that can transform your understanding of life and the universe. Because what we will explore here, it is not simply information. It is an invitation to spiritual awakening. To delve into the secrets of the Urantia Book about Jesus, we must first understand the origin of this enigmatic work. Published in 1955 by the Urantia Foundation, it is presented as a revelation, transmitted by celestial beings with the purpose of expanding human understanding of our universe, our spiritual history, and especially the true nature of Jesus as the Creator Son. Researchers like Meredith Sprenger-Kurt, Grack, and comparative analysts like Matthew Block dedicated decades to studying its content, finding profound connections between its teachings and ancient philosophical currents, as well as novel ideas that propose a cosmic framework completely different from the one usually associated with Christianity. It is possible that Jesus had a broader universal role than is traditionally taught. It is possible that his birth, life, and ascension are part of a carefully planned cosmic process. According to the Urantia Book, and its pages offer details that invite deep reflection. This work argues that Jesus was not only a moral teacher or a spiritual leader, but the incarnation of a Creator's Son, a divine personality in charge of organizing and directing a vast system of inhabited worlds. Although this idea may seem extraordinary, it surprisingly coincides with the teachings of ancient Gnostic and Hermetic schools that spoke of spiritual hierarchies and elevated beings guiding the evolution of humanity. Authors such as Helena Blavatsky and Rudolf Steiner, they described the existence of superior beings who accompany human spiritual development. The Urantia Book places Jesus within this structure, but gives him a unique mission: to reveal the true nature of the universal Father. Imagine for a moment Jesus not only as a sage or a prophet, but as a revealer of the very structure of the cosmos, a circle of presence connecting spiritual and material dimensions. What would change in your understanding of his message if you considered the possibility that each of his actions had resonance beyond the physical world? Share in the comments what this broader view of his identity evokes in you. One striking statement from the Urantia Book is that Jesus lived a completely human childhood without miraculous privileges or supernatural advantages. It is said that his spiritual growth was the fruit of effort, experience, learning, and the gradual understanding of his universal identity. This perspective, studied by William Sadler, one of the original examiners of the text, resonates with ancient teachings. They maintain that even the most elevated souls must experience human life in all its complexity to fulfill their purpose. The book describes a childhood rich in profound experiences, encounters with nature, questions about the meaning of justice and compassion, and moments of silent reflection that shaped his character. This vision not only humanizes Jesus, but also magnifies his figure, showing a being who chose to understand from within the challenges and suffering of humanity in order to better serve humankind. And all this is just the beginning, the deepest teachings, the hidden episodes of his youth, the true dimension of his mission, and the great final revelation that will forever change your understanding of Jesus are yet to be revealed. To advance on this path of discovery, we must now delve into one of the most intriguing sections of the Urantia Book, the youth of Jesus. While traditional texts barely mention a few isolated episodes from his adolescence, this work offers a profound look, rich and detailed, on how the young Jesus was building his spiritual identity. Consider the importance of understanding not only what Jesus taught in his adult life, but how the human being who would later be able to embody a universal mission was formed. Imagine the young Jesus awakening to the consciousness of his divine identity, not in a miraculous instant, but through a progressive process full of doubts, questions, and discoveries. According to the Urantia Book, from a very early age, Jesus showed an interest unusual for the workings of the universe. He observed the skies with profound fascination, wondering about the origin of the stars and the purpose of life. This cosmic interest brought him closer to the wisdom of diverse cultures, which coincides with the reflections of academics like George D. Williamson and comparative scholars who consider it possible that Jesus had a much broader spiritual knowledge than that of his own environment. One of the most striking revelations of this work is that Jesus would have traveled much more than is believed. Mundus Dedis, Cisestitus. While the traditional Gospels don't usually record these movements, the Urantia Book describes how he undertook extensive journeys through regions like Egypt, Damascus, and coastal areas, where he learned from different spiritual traditions. These journeys allowed him to understand the human condition from multiple cultural and philosophical perspectives. When you think of a Jesus who not only taught but also learned tirelessly, what emotion does this more complete picture of his spiritual development evoke in you? In Egypt, according to the Urantia Book, Jesus would have had contact with sages and mathematicians who helped him understand universal structures, while in Damascus he would have learned concepts that would later influence his understanding of universal brotherhood. This aligns with the view of researchers like William Sadler Jr., who analyzed how these experiences would have prepared Jesus for the monumental task of teaching universal love and divine fatherhood. But what is most surprising is that in all these journeys, Jesus did not present himself as a teacher, but as a seeker, a humble young man who desired to learn and observe. This period, described in detail by the Urantia Book, shows a Jesus who, despite his universal identity, chose to submit to the human experience from the ground up without privileges. Isn't this one of the most powerful teachings for those seeking spiritual awakening? True greatness is not demonstrated by avoiding difficulty, but by embracing the experience that shapes character and soul. The text also mentions profoundly human episodes. The young Jesus' first inner conflict when confronted with injustice, his struggle to understand human suffering, and the responsibility he felt towards his family after Joseph's death. These experiences shaped his compassionate vision and sense of justice. Studies by Meredith Sprenger suggest that this description aligns with psychological patterns observed in highly conscious spiritual figures who often go through intense periods of sensitivity and questioning. Before assuming his mission, imagine that moment when Jesus, still young, first contemplates the idea of a universe inhabited by countless worlds, all part of a greater divine plan. According to the Urantia Book, this understanding didn't come suddenly, but through a series of internal and external experiences that awakened in him a universal vision that went beyond any known tradition. What do you think of this possibility? Do you find it inspiring to imagine Jesus expanding his understanding of the cosmos? Like any other seeker, like a human evolving step by step. Another interesting revelation is Jesus' relationship with nature from a very young age. According to the work, he found in the contemplation of the sky, the mountains, and the sea a direct link with the universal Father. This coincides with reflections of spiritual philosophers like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who affirmed that nature has the capacity to awaken in human beings the awareness of their connection with the divine, the Jesus of the Urantia Book. It demonstrates a sensitivity that allows us to understand the universe as a living, interconnected family guided by eternal love. And as we move forward, it reminds us that each aspect of these revelations is preparing the ground for understanding the adult mission of Jesus, which, according to the Urantia Book, has much broader dimensions than those currently known. We still need to delve into unpublished episodes of his ministry, the true nature of the so-called apostles, his universal purpose and the final revelation, which will define the essence of his cosmic legacy. Before continuing, think for a moment about which part of his youth impacts you the most. Leave it in the comments. Your reflection can help others expand their own spiritual understanding. As we enter the adult stage of Jesus, according to the Urantia Book, we find a profoundly enriched vision of his spiritual mission. This work not only expands on the details of his public teachings, but also reveals unknown episodes, intimate dialogues, and crucial decisions that they shape the universal impact of his life. Imagine that every step he took, every word he spoke, and every choice he made was part of a cosmic plan that went far beyond the visible horizon of his time. Something fundamental that this book highlights is that Jesus, even before beginning his public ministry, had already reached a full understanding of his divine identity. Nevertheless, he chose to act with patience and discretion, respecting human processes and allowing his message to mature in people's hearts. Comparative studies conducted by analysts such as Matthew Block indicate that this attitude coincides with patterns observed in spiritual leaders who base their influence on inner transformation rather than external imposition. Jesus taught by silent example through the consistency between what he said and what he lived. One of the most profound revelations describes how Jesus carried out discrete missions before his public life, offering spiritual guidance to individuals in crisis. Whether existential or moral, these stories reveal an extraordinary humanity where compassion and wisdom intertwine with a universal vision. Consider what it means that someone considered by the Urantia Book as a creator son dedicates time to comforting ordinary people, listening to their fears and offering hope in times of darkness. What emotion does it stir within you to imagine a Jesus so approachable and so human? Another striking aspect is the choice of his apostles. Whereas the traditional Gospels, the Urantia Book records their names and some basic traits, offering a surprisingly detailed description of their personalities, virtues, and weaknesses. Each was selected not for perfection, but for potential. Peter with his impulsiveness, Andrew with his analytical serenity, John with his sensitivity, Thomas with his critical mind, and the others, each representing different dimensions of the human soul. Researchers such as Meredith Sprenger have highlighted the psychological depth of these descriptions, pointing out that they fit with modern models of personality analysis. Imagine for a moment the scene in which Jesus gathers this diverse group. According to this work, he saw in each one the divine spark, the capacity for growth, the opportunity to represent humanity in his great spiritual experiment. He did not seek the most prepared, but the most authentic. Jesus understood that his message should be transmitted by people capable of connecting with the everyday experience of the people. What does this tell you about the way? The Urantia Book states that Jesus undertook intensive work before beginning his public preaching, striving to understand the social problems, cultural tensions, and spiritual needs of the people of his time. This image connects with observations by theologian Frederick Farrar, who noted that Jesus possessed an extraordinary perception of human difficulties and knew how to speak to the heart of each individual. The Urantia Book amplifies this idea, showing how Jesus built bridges between different traditions and spiritual teachings, recognizing the value in each. And thus we arrive at the beginning of his public ministry, which was not simply a series of teachings but a deliberate movement to awaken human consciousness. According to this work, every parable, every gesture, and every miracle had a profound reason. The purpose was not to surprise, but to enlighten. Jesus spoke of the kingdom of heaven, not as a distant place, but as an inner reality that could be awakened here and now. Philosophers like Leo Tolstoy intuited this vision when interpreting the Gospels from an inner spiritual perspective. The Urantia Book confirms and expands upon it, explaining that Jesus taught about a kingdom that begins with the transformation of the soul. One of the most fascinating points revealed by the book is the true intention behind his miracles. According to this work, Jesus did not perform miracles to demonstrate power, but to alleviate human suffering and reveal the loving nature of the universal Father. This coincides with reflections from scholars such as Jesus. Firms argued that Jesus' true greatness lay in his compassion rather than his miracles. The Urantia Book states that every extraordinary act was intended to teach a spiritual lesson capable of transcending time. And as we explore all these facets, remember that we have not yet reached the book's deepest revelation about Jesus. We still have to discover his true cosmic purpose, the universal significance of his presence on earth, and the final teaching that will completely change your understanding of his mission. That revelation will be the culmination of our journey, the final piece that connects all aspects of his life from his childhood to his resurrection. Before we continue, reflect for a moment on which teaching from his ministry inspires you most. Share your answer, because your reflection can open doors in the minds of other seekers who are accompanying this journey. As we move toward the final leg of this journey, we enter the heart of the deepest secrets that the Urantia Book reveals about Jesus, all of which we have explored previously. From his human childhood to his universal mission, he prepares us to understand the supreme purpose of his incarnation. This is the point where cosmic vision meets human experience, where divine grandeur embraces the fragility of the material world, and where that which only the most sincere seekers are prepared to receive is revealed. According to the Urantia Book, Jesus did not come merely to teach moral principles or to reform the religion of his time. His primary mission was to reveal the loving nature of the universal Father and demonstrate how a life fully consecrated to the divine can transform the destiny of an entire planet. This statement, analyzed in depth by researchers such as Meredith Sprenger, suggests that her life represented an unprecedented exhibition of how a human being can perfectly integrate with higher spiritual guidance. Her presence on Earth was not an isolated event, but a vital chapter within a continuous revelation destined to raise the consciousness of all humanity. Imagine for a moment what it means that Jesus came not only as a teacher, but as a living example of human potential. The Urantia Book insists that his life was the perfect embodiment of divine truth in human form. Rudolf Steiner, although from another esoteric tradition, also described Jesus as the archetype of enlightened humanity. This resonates powerfully with the idea that his mission had a universal scope, and that each of his teachings contained layers of meaning intended to awaken different levels of consciousness for those who listened to him. One of the most surprising aspects this work reveals is the true nature of his sacrifice. It was not simply an act intended to atone for sins, but a demonstration of absolute love, a final surrender that showed how even in the midst of the deepest suffering, the spirit can remain steadfast in its union with the divine. Jesus, according to the Urantia Book, did not die to appease the wrath of any power. He died to reveal the immense love of the Father and to complete a stage crucial to his universal experience as the incarnate creator, son among his own creatures. This perspective offers a broader and deeper understanding of the spiritual significance of his surrender. The text mentions that during the last days of his life, Jesus was fully aware that his message would transcend centuries. He knew that his words and actions would resonate with people in future generations, including those who, like you, seek to understand the hidden mysteries of existence. Authors such as Frederick Farrer had already suggested this. The Urantia Book confirms that Jesus' serenity in the face of suffering revealed a superior understanding of human destiny by showing how he faced his passion not with fear but with a higher purpose that transcended the barrier of time. But here we arrive at the most crucial point, the final revelation, the most powerful of all, the one that completely transforms the traditional view of Jesus. According to this work, his resurrection was not only proof of his divinity, but the final demonstration that spiritual life is indestructible. The Urantia Book describes in detail how Jesus manifested after his death in a glorified spiritual body, teaching his followers for a brief period before his final ascension. This ascension did not simply signify his departure, but his conscious return to his universal position as sovereign of a vast array of inhabited worlds. Imagine what this statement implies. Jesus not only became a venerated historical figure, but he resumed his cosmic role as guide and protector of countless civilizations. His time on Earth was a necessary experience within his divine evolution, an act of love that allowed him to fully understand the existence of his creatures in order to govern them with infinite compassion. This vision, analyzed by thinkers like George Williamson, offers a perspective in which the life and teachings of Jesus cease to be a local event and become a universal one. And here is the final revelation that we promised from the beginning. According to the Urantia Book, Jesus did not come alone to redeem humanity, but to show us that we are all part of a cosmic family. His central message was not fear, judgment, or condemnation, but the radical affirmation that every human being is a child of the universal Father. This truth, when deeply understood, has the power to transform lives because it eliminates separation, breaks down internal barriers, and awakens an inner strength that is recognized as eternal. Think about it. If Jesus revealed that the Father is pure love and that you are part of that love, then your purpose in life is not merely to survive, but awakening. Everything he taught pointed to this essential truth. The kingdom of heaven is within you, waiting to be discovered when you decide to live from your highest spiritual nature. Throughout this journey, we have united history, profound spirituality, esoteric wisdom, and cosmic revelations. We have seen Jesus not only as a teacher, but as a universal guide, not only as a historical figure, but as an eternal presence. And now I invite you to reflect on which teaching from this journey resonates most deeply in your spirit. Leave it in the comments and share this knowledge with those seeking to awaken their inner light. This is the end of our journey, but for those seeking the truth, the real path has only just begun. I'll see you in the next video to continue exploring together the mysteries that transform the soul and expand consciousness. Thank you for watching.